All right. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for Strictly Speaking Unlimited. We're going to say we lower the music just a little bit here. I like to turn it on, by the way. We go live a few minutes early every day just to give you a little bit of a vibe, a little bit of a beat, a little bit of a preview of what's coming on the show. You just saw the picture of Josh Williams there. He's going to be on with us in the next hour, but thank you for getting in with us today. It's a really, really, really important 2 hours that we have today, in part because of what we will talk about today, and in part because of what we have to talk about for next week. There are changes coming, and they're just their reality. They are what they are. They are going to be unstoppable. It is what has to happen. I'll explain, but it has to do with this podcast and when you can watch it live. You can watch it at this time, starting next week, every single day from 10 until noon, but it might not be live. It might have been live from earlier in the morning or from the night before. And I'll explain that. Like I said, it's something that just has to happen. But we'll get into that in a little while. I want to get into a lot of other important things this morning. And I really appreciate you being with us. Happy New Year, by the way. How cool is that? 2023 or 2023. Sorry, my brain is elsewhere. 2026 is a huge, huge year for us. As I said this before, not only are we now officially in America's 250th birthday, which of course we'll celebrate on the 4th of July, but we're in the year of the 250th birthday. It is also the year we saved the Republic. It was born 250 years ago. It will be saved on its 250th birthday. And that means we're going to win the midterms, and we're going to stop the left from destroying what's left of the country. They have an agenda in mind. I'm not breaking any news here. You know exactly what's happening, and they are going to try to win the midterm, kill the next 2 years of the advancements under the Trump agenda, and then use that slowdown to take advantage of the voters and their naivete and convince them to elect somebody like Gavin Newsom or whoever in 2028, and then they're going to destroy the country. We will never get it back. They will kill the filibuster, which we are too cowardly and afraid to do, and then it will all be over. That's what their plan is. I say bullshit. I'm calling that right now. We will not allow that to happen, not on our watch. So we've got a lot of work to do between now and then. So it's the second morning of the first month in the year of our Lord 2026, and we're going to dive in. Coming up, like I said in the last hour, or the second hour of the show, we're going to talk to Josh Williams, state representative from Northwest Ohio, Toledo area. I like him. He's a good guy. I've talked to him many, many times. I've appeared on stage with him at an event just once, I think. But I like him. And he is one of the few in Columbus right now that is stepping up and saying, all right, if the governor is not going to do anything about it, if the state office holders are not going to do anything about the fraud in Columbus, Ohio, then we'll do it from the legislature. He says 40, I think is what his post on Twitter said, on X. He's got 40 co-signers pledging to ensure that state authorities do more of the unannounced visits to the daycare centers, the alleged daycare centers that are believed to be by many to be fraud, like so many going on in Minnesota. And it's not just daycare centers. I was talking to Chris Long this morning, the president of the Ohio Christian Alliance, Pastor Chris Long. And he's correct. He said, I don't know if you're aware of this. He said, but it's not just daycares. And in fact, in Ohio, it might not be daycares being the number one fraudulent service that is being provided or that is alleged to have been provided that is receiving taxpayer dollars. But of course, it's not existent. But the transportation and the healthcare services might be even worse in the state of Ohio. He gave an actual example of one on the transportation side that I won't share. But the point is, the home health care fraud is just as big of, if not bigger, graft than the daycare fraud. And I'm going to dive into the daycare fraud. Don't get me wrong. We'll do that in a moment. But I mean, the healthcare one, we need more investigations to be done there as well, either by independent journalists or by actual state officials. But we're talking about the amount of money that you can apply for to get, to reimburse you if you can't work because you have to take care of an elderly or a sickly relative. And you don't have to provide proof that you're caring for them. So it's the same kind of thing. You don't have to provide proof that there are kids in the seats in in the daycare centers. You don't have to provide proof that there's an elderly person that you're taking care of, but you apply, and all you have to do is put in the paperwork, and they send you the money. Whose money? Our money, your money, my money. It's just extraordinary. And with the transportation, all they have to do, all you can, if you do you have a truck, a van that can hold 15 people ish, get yourself a van. Start up your own transportation company. Call it Somali National Transport. And then all you got to do is apply and say, I'm transporting helpless, needy people, impoverished people to places where they need to go. And they can't afford Ubers. They can't afford cabs. They don't have cars. We're transporting people. And then all you have to do is log the miles. You don't have to actually take anybody. Just fill out the log, send it in, and watch your income, watch your bank account fill up. The graft is real. The fraud is real. And we are going to dive into all of that. But believe it or not, that's not going to be our lead topic of conversation this morning. So let me first say welcome to the chatters and see what the chat room looks like at the early going here. All right, we got a nice group of people in already. Roz is in, T-Bach is in, Brian is in, Rum JC is in, Mart somebody is in, Victor and Buckeye Therese and Fred. It looks like Fred. I see Dee Dee. Awesome stuff. Keep Sarah, B Butts. Is that B Butts? Do they lie? Big Butts? Anyway, Ben is in, Lois Irene, Charlie is in. Love it. Keep that coming. And by the way, chatters, you're going to have a very, very important decision to make later in the show. As I said, we're trying to build something big here. We're trying to build something special. We are on the road to 10K. Every long journey starts with a single step. Our first step has been crossed. We're over 1,100 people right now, pushing up toward 1,200. We want to get to 10,000. That's the road we are on. And it will only happen with your assistance and support. And if we don't get that assistance and support in the form of all of the things that Rumble likes, all of the things that the algorithms like, the number of likes, that means you got to slam the thumbs up button when you come in. And not just on this video or this live stream. Go back to all the videos on the channel that you see there, all of them, even before we started doing live. Go there and give them a thumbs up and put in a comment, something like saying, liked it, great show, appreciate it, whatever. Because the algorithms like the likes, they like comments, they like the follows, they like the subscribes, and they like the time spent watching. So please contribute in all of those ways, in addition to the financial side, obviously, because we can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this without a day job. And that's the reality of it. So that's why you're going to have something to decide in the chat room. As I go to work a second job, in addition to what we're doing here next week, that means the live show is going to have to be changed to either before 10 o'clock or in the evenings the night before. We're going to have to do a live show at a different time, and then I'll run it back from 10 until 12. And I'm going to need you guys to help me make that decision. I'm going to have to set up a poll, something like that, to figure out what might be best for you, because I do want to engage with live chatters during shows. And then it will be run back at 10 o'clock starting next week, 10 to noon, just like we are now. So enough of the personal stuff about that. Please support any way you can, by the way, financially. You know the drill as far as the Rumble Rants button at the bottom of the page. You know there are a whole lot of other things that should be on the crawl going across the bottom of the screen so that you can support us, because this is it. This is Patriot-supported online radio. That's the only way it gets done. So that's where we are. Now, I don't want to start with the daycares and with the Columbus fraud and everything. And Mehek Cook, by the way, Mehek Cook sent me a note, and I did not realize this. Mehek Cook went out to do some of the same investigations that we're seeing from people like Nick Shirley in Minnesota. She went to one of the Columbus facilities, and she got assaulted. And not only did she get assaulted, it wasn't a punch or anything like that, but because she and her associate were recording some of these empty buildings and some of the fraudulent, places. Somebody slapped her phone out of her hand. They filed a police report. She said the police were wonderful. They came and took care of business. Whether or not there will be prosecutions, though, she's highly doubtful of. But not only did she get assaulted that day, she was then threatened with assault by some left-wing lunatic nut job named the Rooster, who's pretty well known on Ohio, in Ohio political circles on X for being a rabble-rousing left-wing lunatic. I blocked him a long, long time ago. It's one of the reasons I didn't see what was happening here. But I blocked him a long, long time ago. He essentially threatened Mehek Cook, saying to her that one day she may find herself on the wrong side of a stand your ground situation, which means she shows up to check out and inspect these daycare centers. And if somebody uses a stand your ground defense, in other words, he's threatening to have her shot. It's bottom line. That's what this rooster was implying. And we have to get into that, and I will. And we'll do a lot of that when we get into the second hour with Josh. But what I want to do in the first hour is a little bit more, broad. But you saw what happened at midnight, New Year's Eve, as we flipped the calendar over to January 1st of 2026. Zoltar, otherwise known as Zoran Mamdani, Zoltar the Wish Granter from the big movie from Tom Hanks back in the 80s. That's what I call Zoran Mamdani, because that's what he is. He thinks he can just grant every wish of every leftist. And Zoltar Mamdani was inaugurated, or took the oath of office, I guess, sworn in. He had his swearing in with Bernie Sanders doing the swearing in. And then he swore in with his hand on the Quran, because of course he did. How could he not? He is an Islamist, aka a Muslim, aka somebody who wishes for world domination under Sharia law. And this is what New York City voted for. This is what New York City brought in. But not only did it bring in the Islamist in Zoltar Mamdani, it brought in the communist in Zoltar Mamdani as well. So I want to share this with you. This is part of what he said at his swearing in. It is every bit as grotesque as it sounds if you know the language, if you know the vocabulary, and if you truly understand what collectivism is. But let's listen to him first, and then we're going to take this all apart as we go. Here we are.
We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
All right, that's enough. That's enough of that. I don't want to listen to him any more than I have to, especially with the rest of that trash. But what I do want to focus on is what you just heard. The most important one word, but he made it by calling it warm collectivism. That's what we need to focus on. That's what we need to talk about. So I've kind of uploaded it so that we can hear just the money line again and again and again as is necessary, or as it is deemed necessary here. And so let's hit that.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Replace the frigidity with the warmth of collectivism. What percentage would you say of the American population, much less the New York City population, that voted for a communist, what percentage of them do you think know what collectivism is? A little bit of it is understandable simply from the context of the word collecting. Okay, collecting what? Collectivism is the means of socialism and communism that has ended the lives of over 100 million people just in the last century alone, going back to around 1917. Collectivism is communism. Collectivism, and he tries to make it sound like the rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. He's trying to make it sound like it's a positive thing, obviously. It is literally antithetical to everything, anything and everything that this country has been founded on. This country was founded on individual freedoms and individual opportunities, and the opportunity to pursue your dream, to grow and gain and earn and create as much as you possibly can. This guy is saying we're going to quash all of that in our largest city in New York, and we're going to replace it with collectivism. And people need to understand what that means. This framing is not new. This is marketing. This is marketing, what he is trying to do. But the history that most people don't know expose it as a lie. And that's what I want to get to. Because collectivism, when it's imposed by government and not chosen voluntarily, has a track record of death, the bloodiest of the modern era. And understand that let's be very clear about definitions, because the left and lunatics like Mamdani love to blur the definitions. Individualism, which he said, the frigidity of individualism, means that you own your own labor. It means you own your own property. It means you own and make your own choices. Collectivism as a governing system means that the state decides what you can own. The state decides what you can keep. The state decides what you can charge if you have a business. The state decides what you can say. And collectivism enforces those decisions with force. That's not warmth. That's not charitable. That's not community. That's coercion. And that's the part that they never want to talk about. They think that if you take from the rich and give to the poor, making everybody even, that makes everybody better, but it doesn't, because it quashes, crushes, destroys incentives. Why would anybody build something? Why would anybody try to gain something and generate wealth and hire more people so that they can generate wealth if it's all going to be taken from them? It crushes incentivism. That's what it does. That's what collectivism does. Now, we talk about giving to charitable endeavors all the time. And of course we should, but that's voluntary. That's not collectivism. If you want to give to somebody to help them out in whatever way that might be, that's your choice. That's freedom. That's the frigidity of individualism that this lunatic talks about. Having it taken from you without your permission is a different story altogether. That's collectivism, that's socialism, that's communism, that's authoritarianism. So what you need to know is the reality. I want to give you some of the history. So it's not just me blathering on about, what the definitions are. I wrote a newsletter about this 2 months ago-ish. It was before Mamdani was elected. It was basically a warning shot. For those who don't know what socialism is and collectivism is, I put it in the newsletter. And if you have not yet subscribed to the newsletter, strictly speaking, this week, comes out every Sunday at 10 o'clock. I've actually been putting one out every day just with promoting the podcast and who and what is going to be on it. But here, let me pull this up just super quick so you can get a view of what, strictly speaking, this week newsletter looks like. I don't do this enough, and I really should. So bear with me here. Let me give you this. All right, can you see that all right? Let me zoom it up, make it full screen here. Yeah, so this is what comes out every Sunday at 6 a.m. I like to get it in your hands before you go to church, while you're drinking your coffee and having your breakfast or whatever, just to make it easier for you. But what I bring you here, and I'll enlarge that a little bit, is I bring you an introduction of what's in this week's issue. Then we bring you top 5. Well, this was my year in review, so this won't exactly look right. But, where it says top 5 things to know about 2025, normally that'll say top 5 things to know this week. 5 things to know this week. And it's the top 5 news items in the cycle. And it's some analysis, usually with links, like you can see there, to stories that provide some context and some sourcing of what my analysis is. So, the top 5 stories will be there. That'll be, 5 things to know this week. Then we'll have an audio video of the week. Usually it's from the show, it's an interview that I've done, or it's something that's online that is really important that you need to know. Again, just for this particular one I'm showing you, it was last week's issue, was the end of 2025 year in review. So that was just a sharing of that. And then the second section would be 5 things to do this week. Disregard what you see here where it says top 5 Ohio things. It's just 5 things to do this week. And this is your action items. I give you 5 things to know at the top, and then 5 things to do at the bottom, things that can be very, very helpful. But again, this is just a look at what the newsletter looks like. I put a lot of work into it every week, and a lot of time, and I think it's valuable. I think a lot of people will tell you that who subscribe. If you do not yet subscribe to Strictly Speaking this week, All you have to do is go to my webpage. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have to put a link to it here on the Rumble channel too. I haven't done that. I probably should. But go to my webpage, which is also going to be undergoing a transformation very, very soon in the very near future. But for now, go to strictlyspeaking.org, and you'll see a pop-up there that says subscribe to the newsletter. You put in your first name, you put in your email address, boom, you're in. It's just that simple. All right. Now, where was I on that? Yeah, about 2 months ago, I wrote an entire issue of Strictly Speaking this week about socialism, collectivism, communism. Again, we'll put them all together, and about the death and the famine, the starvation, the torture that comes with collectivism and has really throughout world history, but most specifically in the modern era, most specifically since 1900, more specifically, probably about 1917. But since then, collectivist and communist regimes have killed, directly or indirectly, over 100 million people around the world, not just in wars and not by accident, but through policy, through confiscation, central planning, forced collectivism. That means taking property. Private property not allowed. It's all owned by the collective, all owned by the state and distributed as the state sees fit. Labor camps, purges. Let me give you some of the examples because, again, I did this on the newsletter. The Soviet Union. Collectivism meant that farmers were stripped of their land and the grain that they produced. And the results in the early 1930s, a massive famine for years that left millions dead. In Ukraine, part of the Soviet Union alone, millions starved while their grain was confiscated at gunpoint. And when people tried to survive, they were arrested for hoarding. That's not, it wasn't famine because of weather. It wasn't, it was intentional theft of property by the state under the guise or under the policies, if you will, of collectivism. People need to understand that we are collecting it from everyone else and distributing it to others. That's what they truly believe to be actually, I don't know if they truly believe that to be the right way. It's the way that they kept control. And that's the bottom line, is they kept and wanted and demanded control. So let me give you some other examples. That was the Soviet Union. The broader Great Soviet Famine was 1932 to 1933. 7 million deaths across the USSR, with, like I said, the largest share there in Ukraine. 1937, 1938, they had mass operations. They executed hundreds of thousands of individuals, all because these individuals were starting to push back, trying to survive. All right. Collectivism did not, like I said, arrive with what did Zoltar call it again? Hold on, let me pull him up there again.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
Of collectivism. Doesn't that sound warm to you? When food disappears and the state criminalizes people trying to survive because they're trying to keep their own food and they're calling it hoarding. Let's move to the collectivism of the People's Republic of China. Communes, collectivism, famine, the Great Leap Forward, which preceded Mao's Cultural Revolution. This is 1958 to 1962. Sources there estimate that the range of deaths, the range of murders, essentially by famine, by forced starvation, and others, were in the neighborhood of 55 million people. 55 million people by a collectivist government. All right. That was, again, the Great Leap Forward and those people's communes that they were forced to live in. That was the deadliest famine associated with collectivism and central planning that we have ever seen. Even worse than the Soviets. So this wasn't a story of drought, famine because of extreme weather conditions. That's not it. It's policy choices. Again, communes and quotas and procurement and repression and false reporting. They turned, food scarcity into mass death intentionally. That's how they kept the survivors under control. There was land reform. late 1940s, early 1950s. Historical estimates say they vary kind of, all over, because you see a lot of different history, historical sources, and some cite different numbers from different places. But generally, hundreds of thousands to millions of people were killed as the property was confiscated and class enemies were eliminated. And that was just in the Great Leap Forward. That didn't even get into Mao's Cultural Revolution, in which more were killed by collectivists or under the policies of collectivism. All right. How many people saw the movie The Killing Fields back in the 1980s? I don't remember what year it was, but The Killing Fields was a horrific look at the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. In Cambodia, they tried to restart all of history. They literally declared the start of the new regime year zero. Okay, they did this around real year 1975 to 1979. Mass death under collectivist projects, the forced evacuation of cities, forcing people to live again in communal living, the abolition of money and markets, forced labor. Over 2 million people were killed in that second half of the 1970s. The majority of them during the Khmer Rouge rule. We're talking about 2.2 million people dying from starvation, torture, or execution. That's what this comes to. Does this sound warm to you? No private property, no markets, no opting out. You are just forced to do what the state tells you to do, or you die, usually in a very, very painful and horrific way. Why are we talking about this? Because Zoltar Mamdani was sworn in 2 nights ago at midnight, coming into January 1st, 2026, and said, we will kill individualism and replace it with collectivism. This is collectivism. Do you think if 7 million New Yorkers knew this before the election, they would have voted this way? They may have, because left-wing lunatics know, it's a mental disorder. Left-wing liberalism, leftism is a mental disorder. Maybe they would have. But I guarantee you, most people don't know this is the result of collectivism. It's the same bull crap that you see all of the time when somebody wants, I'm a democratic socialist, Bernie Sanders. I'm a democratic socialist, AOC. Democratic socialist, Elizabeth Warren. All of these people say they're socialists. They think the word democratic in front of socialist, that modifier changes the meaning. The old socialism that you're talking about, oh, silly, they didn't do it right. Real socialism, democratic socialism, is great for everybody. Every regime that has ever tried it or implemented it found out the same thing. Or every person that was subjected to it under those regimes found out the same thing. It never works. They're saying they didn't do it right. They did it exactly right, and they got the desired result. Death, full and total power. What did Orwell write about 1984? What is the vision of the future? A boot heel stomping on the face of a human. The big boot heel of government, of the big state, crushing the individual. Crushing the individual. The state crushing the individual. How does that square with
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
We will crush with collectivist boot heels the individuals under our control. That's happening in New freaking York City, our largest city in the country. The country was founded on the exact opposite of that. The country was founded upon the principle that the government was controlled by the people, not the people being controlled by the government. The people make the rules. The people make the laws. The people send the people's representatives together in this republic to do their bidding. The people are in charge. The government does what they're told. That's how it works. That's what it was founded upon, and that's how it's worked for 250 years. Now, this guy, this communist Muslim, neither of those things are compatible with Western civilization, comes in and says, we're doing just the opposite. In a nation in which the founders and all of those who fought to defend the Constitution that was written outlining our rights as the shareholders, if you will. We are all co-owners of this country. Our rights supersede anything the government wants to do, and we tell the government what to do. This guy comes in and says, no, in New York City, your largest city, we, the government, will take what we want from you and we will distribute it to others. I'm not done with my examples. I wrote about North Korea. North Korea, you should probably know this one. It's a little bit more modern. The 1990s famine under the Arduous March. Do you remember that one? The totals are a little bit varied. Some people say around 600,000. Some say it's a lot closer to 1 million. But that was an intentional starving of the people. The government collects all of the goods, and that includes the food, and distributes it as it sees fit. And if it sees fit to starve people to death, there's nothing the people can do about it. That's the reality. So when the state monopolizes food distribution, famine becomes inevitable. It becomes intentional. It is political. And who eats depends on, well, their classification. What group are you in? Zoltar Mamdani is about to tell all New Yorkers that they have to give up their possessions and give up their money so that it can be shared and split up in housing, in free rides, free public transportation. And ultimately, government-run grocery stores, which is, again, the beginning of government centralization, centralized control of goods. And when you control the food, you control the population. Ethiopia, 1974 to 1990, 91. They had that period, particularly in the late 70s there, it was a campaign of state murder and terrorist, and that was when they embraced Marxist and Leninist policies, a Marxist-controlled state. Human Rights Watch described that as a systematic counterinsurgency using mass violence. That's what they did to the people. The repeating word in all of these things is, if you're listening to the people who are repressing, they're saying all of these were intended to help people. All of these were intended to take those who have less and give away give to them from people who have more. AOC says it every damn day. She was celebrating Mamdani's little swearing in on the Quran, talking about the grotesque idea that some people in New York have more than others, the wealth inequality. Since when is wealth ever supposed to be equal? The only thing that is supposed to be equal in a free society is opportunity to become wealthy, opportunity to own things, to own more things, than to build things that hire people so that they can build their own wealth and own more things, and on and on and on it goes. It's capitalism. And what the left doesn't want you to know is that capitalism, and I've got to drop out the feed here. I forgot to tell everybody about this. We're trying to make sure that everybody is watching on Rumble, because that's where the chat room is, and we don't want to separate out and segregate, if you will, the audiences. So we're starting out every show on YouTube and on Facebook as well as on Rumble, but we're only going a half an hour on YouTube and